SMS Zaqy Mohamad.
Mr. Chairman, Minister for Defence, Dr. Ng spoke about the global geopolitical shifts, transnational threats, and the attendant impact on Singapore. Increasingly, the security challenges that test us will lie outside of traditional battlefields. Some call this grey zone contestation. Now, more than ever, our investments in both the SAF and total defence continue to be crucial as Singapore's bulwark against crisis, challenges, and potential aggression. In 1984, we launched total defence in the context of a conventional threat landscape. Both then and now, our total defence pillars reinforce our belief that a strong foundation of our defence goes beyond the military domain and requires a whole-of-society response. Over the years, we have faced numerous challenges, from pandemics to economic recession to terrorism. And the 6 pillars of defense, military, economic, social, civil, digital, and psychological defense, working in concert, have allowed us to respond to the threats that jeopardize our future, Singapore's future. In the last 2 years, we have grappled with the COVID-19 pandemic as it upended our lives and stress-tested us as a nation. It has pressured our healthcare systems and strained our supply chains. Many of us have lost jobs and had to pivot to new sectors or roles. And just when it felt like we had turned the corner with the vaccines, there have been new variants like Delta and Omicron. While this has not been a conventional war, it has been a crisis that has impacted all of us. We are dealing with an unknown threat, COVID-19, which even today remains elusive and ever-evolving. In order to meet this threat and protect one another from the virus, we have needed a whole-of-society response through total defense. We understand Member Cheng Li Hui is interested in this topic. So let us take our vaccination program as an example. Today, 91% of our total population is fully vaccinated, and 68% have received their booster shots. And I'm heartened that many have stepped up in support of our national vaccine effort. So one example is National Serviceman Captain Dr. Shane Abuchevich Tan, a medical officer for the home vaccination team who supported COVID-19 operations. He conducted household visits as part of the home vaccination program, ensuring that Singaporeans who are immobile and immunocompromised could receive their vaccines. Another example is the Singapore Federation of Chinese Clan Associations. It put together videos in dialects such as Hakka, Cantonese, and Teochew to encourage seniors to receive their vaccinations. Indeed, we have looked out and supported one another. In 2020, the migrant worker community was disproportionately impacted when COVID-19 began spreading in the dormitories. MINDEF, together with other MINDEF-related organizations and more than 20 partners, set up the community facility in Kranji in May that year, a temporary dormitory for migrant workers, which also served as a vaccination center and a community care facility. It served over 70,000 migrant workers over 20 months, and I'm grateful to our partners who made this possible. Academic institutions such as the Solar Energy Research Institute of Singapore also helped make the site more sustainable. For instance, they tested lightweight solar panels and piloted energy storage solutions, which could be scaled to other sites, temporary sites like these, and contribute to our sustainability efforts in the long term. There are many, many contributions beyond these, and too many heroes to name today. But I thank all of you for your efforts, because you have shown that total defense is very much alive and in every one of us. The threats to our way of life, our sense of stability and security, come in many forms. A study by Checkpoint Research found that Singapore saw a 145% increase in cyber attacks from 2020 to 2021. And healthcare sector was the most targeted sector. Throughout the pandemic, fearmongers have spread falsehoods about variants and the ill effects of vaccines, which have directly threatened public health and, if not controlled, weakened public trust. As Singapore imports 90% of our food, we are highly dependent on continued access to quality food supplies. Threats to our supply chains, natural disasters, and climate change have affected our supplies and food prices. Minister Ng touched on the situation in Ukraine in his speech yesterday. As we watch events unfold, it is a lesson in real time for Singaporeans on how a country's stability can be threatened on multiple fronts, including cyber attacks, information campaigns, and border threats, and all these ahead of military aggression. So it is tragic and sad of how events in Ukraine have unfolded. But what is now clear to me, and I hope to many Singaporeans too, is that we must always be ready, and we can only depend on ourselves for our defense. Total defense, being able to defend ourselves economically, socially, even psychologically, has to be every Singaporean's responsibility. As threats become more complex, multidimensional, and multifaceted, how can we ensure that we are ever ready to meet them? MP Denise Phua asked about this. How can total defense continue to galvanize every Singaporean for our survival, security, and success? It is with these questions in mind that we embarked on a review of total defense. In the past 16 months, we heard from over 2,000 Singaporeans from all walks of life. We asked them how total defense might better rally Singaporeans in times of crisis. And this was even before the Ukraine situation happened. And from these conversations, we learned that total defense has room to be more resonant and relatable, even as the actions within the 6 pillars remain relevant. Some found it too abstract, prescriptive, and focused on present-day threats at the expense of emerging challenges. While some others did not want to be told what total defense was about. Instead, they wanted to be proactive. They wanted space to contribute ideas and efforts towards shaping a Singapore that they aspired to see. So, I am grateful for the feedback, which will guide our ongoing review. We have started on building on some of these suggestions. For one, we will work to make total defense less prescriptive and more inclusive by encouraging more ground-up and community-led efforts. I say more because as many Singaporeans have already stepped up to support the causes that they care about. For example, more people are choosing to buy local produce and dabble in community gardening to strengthen food security. MP Rachel Ong asked what MINDEF is doing to engage youth. This year, we have launched a 2-year campaign beginning with the Total Defense Sandbox Initiative. A sandbox is a safe environment where you can test ideas and you can test programs. And that is what we hope this can be, a space that links ideas to resources, ideas into prototypes, and prototypes into solutions. And we look forward to supporting projects that target today's most salient challenges, such as cyber threats, food security, as some examples. And some ideas we have heard so far include workshops to increase awareness of cybersecurity and campaigns to promote environmentally sustainable habits. And the possibilities are vast, and we look forward to your contributions. We will also continue conversations with Singaporeans to expand and reimagine the actions that we can take for total defense, both in the current security environment and for the challenge that we will face in the near future or futures to come. As the security environment continues to evolve, Singaporeans must be aware of the threats to our sovereignty and our stability, as well as our vulnerabilities. Only then can we understand the roles that we might play and how some of these impact our actions. So let me touch on how MINDEF will work along partners to bring to life some of these challenges and the actions that Singaporeans can take, which MP Rachel Ong also asked about. The Singapore Discovery Centre, or SDC for one, will be transformed to better tell Singapore stories. MP Chong Ki-hyong asked us about this too. SDC has made strides in AR and VR, which are augmented reality and virtual reality, and environmental sustainability, and in recent months, refreshed its galleries. In the upper gallery, we bring history to life through augmented reality. A first-person shooter game takes visitors back to the Battle of Bukit Chandu on 14 Feb 1942. That day, even though Lieutenant Adnan Saidi and the Malay Regiment soldiers were outnumbered and eventually ran out of supplies, they fought valiantly against the Japanese army and refused to surrender. As players hunker down behind sandbags, they will experience how the regiment defended themselves against waves and waves of opponents. And they will also understand the grit and determination that Lieutenant Adnan and his men had made despite the odds. SDC's lower gallery, Sandbox, opened last November. In that interactive space, a simulated digital environment allows visitors to experience Singapore's history and the threats that we face. Startups and students, including those in the AR and VR domain, can also use a new incubator space to collaborate on projects, experiment with technology, and bring ideas to life. SDC has also been investing in innovative energy solutions and renewables, and implementing various energy efficiency measures to reduce energy demand and emissions. Today, more than 60% of its energy use comes from renewable energy, and SDC is working on becoming a net carbon neutral facility. So if you've not been to SDC recently, I encourage you to do so, and perhaps I can invite and organize members in this house if you're interested for a visit. In the next few years, Singaporeans will have more to look forward to in our museums. We are developing capabilities and investing in technology to make the visitor experience in our 3 military museums, SDC, and the upcoming NS Gallery at Marina Bay more fun and more interactive. Museums and galleries are wonderful channels to learn about defense, as history offers important lessons while we can look ahead to chart our course in an uncertain, ever surprising future. And we hope that visitors will walk away with an understanding of the competing needs, goals, and trade-offs that we might have made as a nation and those that we might make in the future. Mr. Chairman, every Singaporean must understand Singapore's security environment, unique vulnerabilities, and the roles that we can play. Only then can we then recognize the opportunities to contribute and step up where needed. So I'm grateful to our Accord partners who are instrumental in this effort and have been reaching out to more youth and women in the current term. They have conducted NS engagement talks, a webinar series on NS and defense issues for university undergraduates, and grassroots dialogues with women. And through these efforts, we prepare those who need to serve NS and help their families and friends take steps to support them. There is a part for everyone to play, no matter how small, to make our defense total. Member Kerry Tan had shown interest and asked if MINDEF would consider expanding NS to include community care roles and enlist both men and women. NS is based on the critical need of national security and defense. Currently, our NS population adequately meets our national security and defense needs. Both Minister Ng and SMS Heng have spoken about MINDEF and the SAF's continued efforts to enhance manpower resource efficiency. However, contributing to Singapore's defense should not be limited to just those serving NS. There are many different opportunities for Singaporeans to contribute actively through total defense, and I encourage everyone to do so. So one example is by equipping oneself with practical emergency response skills for civil defense. I would like to encourage women, first-generation permanent residents, and new citizens without NS commitments who are keen to do more for total defense to volunteer with the SAF Volunteer Corps. MINDEF has also embarked on a refresh of our volunteer program, and Singaporeans will soon be able to contribute in different capacities, including as educators, researchers, and guides in our museums. So this year, we commemorate 55 years of national service, or NS55, as both Minister and SMS Heng have mentioned. NS has been the bedrock of our defense. Generation after generation have served, first as NSFs, then as NS men, to protect and defend Singapore's interests. And that is why it is important to appreciate the dedication, service, and sacrifice of our national servicemen, and to thank them for their efforts. Accord, for one, will step up efforts to recognize, support, and appreciate NS men across the community. MP Zulkarnain Abdul Rahim and Ms. Yeo Wan Ling asked about this. Last year, Accord members raised several ideas that of how Singaporeans can show their support for NS, and we will expand on some of them this year. We will enhance the We Support NS campaign, where businesses, for one, can offer discounts and privileges to NS men. We will also expand the spaces for Singaporeans to reflect on the significance of NS, whether through close engagement with our youth or experiential camps for families and the public. So more details on the initiatives will be shared later in the year. The 3 SAF services will also continue to engage the community, such as through their open houses and charity events. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I would like to close by reiterating that the world remains uncertain. We recognize that the security challenges we face are immense and constantly evolving. MINDEF will continue to build total defense as our best response to the threats and challenges that might come our way. I am heartened that Singaporeans want to do their part for total defense through understanding and action. And we will partner you to work towards securing our collective future. By working together, we have every reason to be confident that we will keep Singapore strong for today and for generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.